I said this just a couple videos ago, but we are so back, bros. A couple weeks ago, we got our first glimpses at Toho's brand new Godzilla movie, Godzilla Minus One. We got posters, we got merchandise, we got an American release date, we got a full look at the design, we got a teaser trailer, and so much more. There's almost too much to talk about in this video, so it's best just to jump right on in and talk about my hopes, concerns, and other thoughts in regards to Godzilla Minus One. So, let's do that. Let's start at a very reasonable place and talk about that 30-second teaser trailer. And man, what a way to make a good first impression. I feel like I can speak for a lot of people when I say that I was totally expecting a full-length trailer for this thing, something around a minute and a half or so. So when I saw that the trailer was only about 30 seconds, I was naturally curious as to what was going to be shown off. And then it started. Shots of an absolutely devastated Japan, coupled with the lines post-war Japan had lost everything, and how they'll be heading from zero to a negative state. And then you get this. Like hot damn. This is some of the most viscerally raw destruction I've seen from a Godzilla thing in quite some time. And considering what the director of this movie, Takashi Yamazaki, has done with Godzilla destruction scenes in the past, I think it's fair to say that we've only seen the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Godzilla's rampage in this film. Needless to say, from the second I saw that trailer, I was sold. I was not expecting something this blunt in terms of there's going to be carnage and destruction and it is going to suck for everyone in the story. There isn't really a whole lot else I can talk about here because out of a 30-second teaser, only half of it is footage from the movie and a majority of that is just establishing shots. So there isn't too much to go off of in that regard. However, there's been no shortage of stuff to talk about. One of the biggest things is Godzilla's brand new design, and to be completely honest with you, this design is just okay. Originally, I saw the design on the poster and I wasn't a fan of it whatsoever. It's basically just a modified version of the look from Godzilla the Ride, and personally speaking, I'm not a fan of that design. It's just too disproportionate for my liking, and to me, the Minus One design seemed to only exaggerate those cattywampus proportions by making the dorsal plates utterly massive while only slightly changing things like the head, arms, and legs to be more traditionally sized. But it has since grown on me. The proportions have grown to bother me less and less over time, and now I can officially say I do like it. The only thing that I think I'd change about the design at this point is just to give him the white dorsal plates. I am starting to get real sick and tired of Godzillas that have their dorsal plates be the same color as their skin, especially after Godzilla Singular Point gave us a Godzilla with white dorsal plates, and those look awesome. Anyways, I feel like my opinion on the design will only grow over time, especially after we get to see it in the film proper. I mean, we only got like 3 seconds of footage showcasing the design so far, so there's still a lot that we have yet to see, and I'm hoping that whatever it is something that's really cool. Yamazaki commented in Toho's official press release regarding Minus One that he made a setting in which Godzilla could be like if fear itself was walking. So let's hope that Godzilla in this movie lives up to that moniker. Here's a couple of little things I wanted to bring up but couldn't figure out where else to put in the video. I really like that this film is seeming to be a period piece, taking place after Japan's loss in World War II. We've had a couple of films that had sequences that take place before 1954, but this is the first film in the franchise that is exclusively set in the past, and I think that that's insanely cool. It's also really exciting to know that we already have an American release date for this thing, coming to the States on December 1st, just under a month after the Japanese release date. The quickest turnaround we've ever had for a Japanese Godzilla movie coming to the US. I was expecting the release date to be at least 2 months after the release in Japan, which would track with all the other Reiwa Godzilla films, but only 4 weeks later is absolutely insane. Apparently it will also be a wider release than something like the Fathom event screenings we had for the Kiryu Saga films or the Funimation release of Shin Godzilla, so hopefully that means more people will have the opportunity to see it in theaters when it drops. The next big thing that I want to bring up is the potential story of this movie. One of the most interesting parts of this teaser is that we get no semblance of a human story anywhere. On one hand, it's a teaser trailer. Why would it show anything like that? But on the other hand, the only sort of character that gets any focus throughout this trailer is this little girl in a shot that lasts for only half a second. I think it's really interesting because when you compare something like this to other Japanese kaiju films such as Shin Godzilla or Shin Ultraman, those films had their main characters revealed a while before their intended release date, and for Minus One, we got nothing. This got me thinking about a potential idea. What if Minus One is a hyperlink film? So for those of you who don't know what that is, hyperlink cinema is a style of filmmaking characterized by complex or multi-linear narrative structure with multiple characters under one unifying theme. Pulp Fiction is a great example of this, where you have multiple different stories going on throughout a film before it all comes together at a certain point. I think that considering the time period that this film takes place in, that being post-war Japan, it might be really interesting to view the perspectives of numerous different people who are living at that time, whether it be a family that just narrowly escaped the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a soldier who was upset about losing the war, high-ranking political figures trying to deal with the sudden appearance of Godzilla, or even American officials who are trying to rebuild Japan after the war. There was a lot of stuff going on during these particular years in which Minus One is set, and I think getting a story that focuses on numerous different characters all united by the looming threat of Godzilla would be really interesting and bring a lot of interesting discussion to the film itself. So with all that out of the way, I'm going to jump into some speculation, and I'm going to be referring to some leaks that were dropped in regard to this movie, so if you don't want to know any of that stuff, then jump to this point. As for everyone else who's deciding to stay, there's totally going to be another monster in this movie, right? Recently, there was a leak for the upcoming wave of Bandai Movie Monster series figures, and usually these leaks are pretty spot on in terms of what actually gets released. The only times they're ever wrong is when figures that are exclusive to the Japanese Godzilla store are revealed. Anyway, this leak showcased a few of the figures that will be coming out at the end of the year, including a Godzilla 1955, an Anguirus 1955 in November, and in December, Godzilla Minus One Monster A. Now, who on earth could this silly little knucklehead be? There's 3 different options I want to bring up. I've talked about this with a few of my friends, and one of the options that they brought up is that this could possibly be Anguirus. After all, why release the original Godzilla and Anguirus vs. movie figures if not to potentially coincide with the release of a movie that features a new Godzilla vs. Anguirus scenario? Another option I want to bring up is something you know if you follow me on my social medias. What if it's Rodan? After all, the Godzilla design used in Minus One is a modified version of the Ride Goji design. And you know who else just so happens to appear in Godzilla the Ride? King Ghidorah? Rodan shows up in that ride and could also show up in Minus One in a slightly modified form. Rodan has been going through something of a renaissance as of late, having standout roles in films such as Godzilla King of the Monsters and having a major presence in Godzilla Singular Point. So maybe Toho wants to throw him in to do battle with Godzilla on the big screen. I will totally admit though that the main reason that I really want this is because we could finally get a proper Godzilla vs. Rodan movie. Like, seriously, we've had 2 films in which King Kong and Godzilla have fought each other, with a 3rd one dropping next year, and we've yet to get a film called Godzilla vs. Rodan. Please tell me I'm not the only person bothered by this. I feel like if they are to do another monster in this movie, then these 2 are the most likely candidates, considering the whole Showa era vibe and that these 2 are pretty synonymous with Toho's early Showa kaiju roster. Though, who knows? Maybe Toho will throw in a curveball and give us Varan or Baragon as this film's enemy monster. Though, allow me to present you with another option for this film's monster co-star. What if it's another Godzilla? Let me explain. Okay, so this is where we actually dive into the leaks of this movie. So shortly after the film was officially revealed, a leak began to spread on 4chan. One part talks about the designs of both Godzillas in the film. One of them is described as a more traditional Godzilla, with burnt and damaged black scales similar to the Godzilla the Ride design. Meanwhile, the second Godzilla is more natural, and is described as a Godzilla that is unaffected by nuclear testing and is stated to have a design more based on orcas, with one large fin-like spine and several smaller ones. The leaks also mention plenty of other things like the story and stuff, but for this video I just want to focus on the Godzilla stuff. So back when this leak first dropped, I thought it was totally bogus. It just seemed like someone who wanted to do their own silly little fanfiction about this movie before it came out and threw in several ideas that they personally liked. But if there was one thing that I thought made a lot of sense, it would be the existence of a second Godzilla. Throughout the past decade, Toho has loved putting multiple Godzilla variations in their films and shows. Shin Godzilla and Singular Point's Godzillas were both evolvers, and the anime trilogy had 2 distinct Godzillas. This is primarily done for merchandising purposes. The only reason that Shin Godzilla fully went through with the idea of multiple forms is that Bandai was totally on board with the concept of selling 3 Godzilla toys instead of just 1. And honestly, now that the movie is getting closer and closer, the more inclined I am to believe that this leak is true. Especially the part that talked about how the mutated Godzilla has a similar design to Godzilla the Ride, in which, I mean, yeah. I'm gonna put on a little tinfoil hat for a minute, but when it comes to the second unmutated Godzilla, I feel like we might have already gotten a glimpse of what it could possibly look like. And where else could you find it but in the main logo of the movie? What many people thought was just a stylized G logo does share a few similarities with the rumored natural Godzilla, with 2 large dorsal plate looking structures jutting out of its back as well as a defined head and tail. If you guys think I'm totally crazy for thinking this, I wouldn't blame you. But this wouldn't be the first time something like this has been done in a Toho Godzilla film, with them hiding the main monster villain on a poster. Look no further than the American poster for Godzilla 2000, and take a gander at who is hidden in the background. Son of a bitch, it's that little goober Orga. And what does the main poster for Godzilla Minus One look like? It features Godzilla inside the silhouette of what could very well be the film's natural Godzilla. Not gonna lie, a big part of why I like this idea so much is that it just sounds really cool on a conceptual level. The Link described this as a sort of War of the Gargantuas with Godzillas, and that's a concept that totally activates the neurons in my ape brain. Also, aside from how the Reiwa era has been playing around with multiple Godzillas, previous eras have had numerous scrapped ideas that had Godzilla doing battle with another member of his species. The most notable example of this being in the Heisei era, in which many of the concepts that preceded Godzilla vs. Destoroyah would have Godzilla face off against another Godzilla. At this point, why not actually try and do that in the most experimental era of Godzilla thus far? Could this leak turn out to be complete nonsense? Absolutely, but considering the things that are true about it and the things that have actual backed up evidence, it's definitely something fun to look into and talk about. And with that, that's basically all I have to say in regards to Godzilla Minus One prior to the movie's release, of course. If it hasn't been made clear by this video, I am totally on board with this film and I cannot wait to watch this thing when it comes to the States in December. The Japanese side of the Reiwa era has been pretty consistent in terms of giving me Godzilla related stuff that I didn't even know I wanted until I got it. I'm a massive Shin Godzilla fan and I really liked both of Godzilla's anime outings, so here's hoping that Minus One can join the club and make the Reiwa era even more fun and exciting than it already has been. December 1st cannot get here quicker. So with that said, what are your guys' hopes, concerns, and other thoughts in regards to Godzilla Minus One? Do you think any of the theories that I had will be true, and what theories do you guys have about it? Be sure to sound off those thoughts and more in the comment section down below, and be sure to follow me on my social medias and join my Discord server if you want updates on upcoming videos or just want to hear my goofy rants about all sorts of stuff. And if you liked what you saw and want to see more, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. Either way, I'm Sam the Geigen fan, hoping that you have a lovely rest of your day, and telling you all to wash your hands.